Where were you? Did you really? Did you go to Torre del Paine? So much. The photographs I have seen. Oh. That's some trip. You're going to tell us all about it.
Not done yet.
Yeah, that's like halfway around the freaking world.
Kingston back.
Yeah, well,
Here we go. I'd like to call to order the regular workshop meeting of the Woodstock Plant Board for January 30th, 2025. We have quorum. We have the minutes of January 2nd. Okay, let's do the document.
adopt the minutes.
Aye.
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 Okay, on communications and announcements, we have that review of the 11/5/28. I don't know if you all got to see it, that our engineer
Need to read it actually.
everything we said out in the field.
About in the toilet. Well, I mean, the question is, their traffic engineers say this and our traffic engineers say that, and I suppose we can vote based on ours.
We will get a set.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying.
Oh, no, that'll happen, absolutely.
All right, so,
It's probably coming.
it's scheduled business, our workshop, we have site plan. Thank you. We have you can read how to go on site plan. We have a resolution. That's what it's about to do. Now we have another surveyor on board.
No,
I'm gonna just give you a sample.
no.
So the first thing, when we get to do site plans. It's trying to hope,
Napkin?
the idea is to see if what they're proposing. So, when you get a final, or not, get a plan. present to it. The very first thing you want to look for, sign. When surveyor, or a licensed engineer, or a licensed architect.
Over in that corner?
Doesn't matter.
Usually in the corner.
Well, yeah, but there's a signature
Sometimes
over
it's
there.
other places, yeah.
Yes, other places.
But
Yeah.
it's the first thing you want to look for because their license. And their license is on us. And it saves us the liability and the responsibility for what happens. Because if it isn't signed by a licensed person, we don't know what the information is. When it's signed by a licensed person,
If it's on a napkin, it won't be.
There's a box.
Oh.
I'll take it.
If it's on a napkin, it's not gonna be signed.
Wait.
no, I'm talking, not sketch plan, I'm talking now.
Sketch plan is just talking about what you want to do, and we're looking at it and it says that looks a little crazy, or maybe you want to do it this way, or looks good to us
Exactly.
so far. That's so
And the
far
reason
being
being
important.
because if people don't done, they come up with kind of a half-final plan. without
Yeah,
discussing
if they've
it.
already bring this in the first time, they may have wasted money.
And they spent all the engineering, all the surveying stuff, and we haven't even looked at it. And now we're kind of forced to want to go with what they did. That's why you really want to make sure it's a side map. The next thing you want to look for is date. And the scale. You've got to have a scale on the map so you have some idea. Before we can take an idea. The other thing is a location map. You should always have where in the town you're looking at. Always be on the plan.
So that's an inset usually?
Yeah. Every plan so that you know where they're. The other most important thing is the bulk rate. A box that shows setbacks and sideline setbacks. And that what they're proposing meets those regulations. So if they're creating a lot, that lot has to meet those setbacks. The area of the lot that's built on.
So that's the goal. If it's a small lot, that can be a critical thing. If it's a big lot, it
Yeah.
probably won't be.
Yeah, but still, that tells us that there was this.
Yeah, well, the setback would have to be there for any kind of a site.
Right.
But if somebody has 5 acres and they're building a private house and it meets the setback, you're not gonna have to worry about that.
Otherwise, you have to go for variance.
Or unless you're on my property where you clearly would have to go through there.
Yeah.
Because I'm below the minimum.
And the other thing is.
This
the
doesn't show
area
the
has to
setbacks.
be on there.
What?
The area of the lot that's being created. The whole, you have to put area.
Oh, just the setbacks are on this one.
Right, right. Exactly. So
It happens all the time that things are like that. We're just telling you
Good
ideas.
catch.
so the setback.
So
We're
if
gonna
that
play
came
that
to us,
again.
we would have to say, you gotta take it back to your survey and get the setback.
Sometimes. If it gets filed, if it's a subdivision map, yes. For a site plan, we don't always necessarily need it.
Yeah, because the idea is you just want to make sure the buildings
Yeah.
are.
So if this isn't theirs, though, this is somebody else, this is this one. So where are they building the house?
This is a kind of weird subdivision.
Okay. so I
Peter
won't
just
worry
brought
about-
it
I
from
won't
his
worry
job
about
just to show you guys what we're kind of
Yeah.
looking for, yeah.
But if
This is
something
what
like,
this is
if
too.
something like the Kurt's property was what you were actually looking at, that's a fairly small lot, they would have to have setbacks on it. Or we would
Showing
send it
that
back.
you know that the buildings.
Yeah. I mean, that one probably is not an issue either, but this one in the corner could well be.
Yeah, and that's why the area has to be, so you know, it's a 2 acre zoning, a 4 acre zoning.
Right.
Amount on that lot, otherwise you get.
But what if it's a pre-existing lot? It's pre-existing non-conforming. That's what I'm on.
Right,
I'm on an R8 and I've got 8/10
but
of
the
an
map,
acre
you still have to show your square footage
of the lot
of the lot.
as well as of the building that I'm proposing. Or the final footprint in the case of an addition.
And then the other important thing for us is if there's a lot line deletion or a new lot, it has to say this lot to be deleted or a new lot. So when we're looking at it, we know what they're proposing. Sometimes they don't do that, it's very confusing.
We recommend one line to be dashed and one line to be darker, but sometimes you get a map and you have no idea what they're proposing to do.
So any lot line changes have to be clear.
Clear so that we know that this is the lot, that the line is deleted or the new lot. When we look at the map.
I try to say, we want to see what's there and what you're proposing to do, and visually.
This is really why her position is critical.
Yeah.
And very critical.
Yeah.
We have, I've been through at least about 4 or 5 different secretaries here. And we have had a couple that were less competent. One who was incompetent enough to really let go. And because simply that job wasn't done. And what was presented to the board was inadequate.
Since I've been on, it's been Teresa and Melissa.
Excuse me?
Since I have been on, it's been Teresa and Melissa, who've both been very good.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that's why I bring this up, because we're relying on Melissa to review these things before they get filed.
Totally.
And it's something that we board members, when they bring the map out, we should know what we're looking for, to see what's located, you know, the wells located, septic systems are located. Those are things that, that if it gets biased, it gets filed wrong, trouble for everybody.
Trouble.
And the other thing that's very important, if there's wetlands, I just like to grab this. If there's wetlands on the site and it's delineated, it has to have the wetlands delineator's name and the date of the delineation on that map signed. Doesn't have to be signed, but it has to have the name of the delineator and when they did it.
Where's that on here?
I don't think there is one there, is there?
Yeah.
There a wetland on that one?
I've never seen one. like
DEC,
this.
yeah, delineated by.
Well,
They're all different.
You can just have the guy's name,
Absolutely.
but you have to know that it's a
Licensed.
I mean,
delineated.
does this one
Accredited.
actually have any wetlands on it?
This map does,
Oh, that's the pond.
No, this isn't a pond. This is a corral for horses.
Oh,
This is
So where's the
federal,
Looped.
and that's New York State.
You could
oh,
see
so there's a
wetland
stream going
boundaries.
right through the horse pond there.
It's just the wetlands.
This is the date is so important. That was delineated. Well, delineation is only good for 5 years. A lot of times people say, oh, I had it delineated, yeah. And then, you know, it's for-
Yeah.
It's only good for 5 years.
Why is that?
Because, well.
Water
change.
They can change.
do.
Yeah.
Change, you know, we have what we call, is wetlands that can get created, by infrastructure, by putting highways and roads through a wetland where they change the way it was. And that's called emergent wetlands, which because the road got put in, the water got locked up, now the trees are dying and it's turning into a wetland. That's called emergent wetland. Might not have been there.
Or if there's some flooding and it pushes a bank over, something collapses into it, it changes, it flows it.
Right. So that's why the date's important, and the delineation is on there. So that's pretty much my spiel on what we should look at on a map.
Now, having me around gives us another layer of
Yes.
looking at stuff. As long as we've got somebody doing that mapping. And it looks like Bill is going to buy me a new computer, which means that if I can no longer do it, I can give somebody else the computer and the files and the software. Looks like it's gonna happen.
Pretty good. And the only other thing that comes up when we look at a subdivision before, but if we're looking at a subdivision, the code says that the planning board has the right to look at the rest of the area. So in other words, we've done many cases where someone had literally 100 acres and they cut out 5, the little lady and the one, but she wanted 5 acres, left 100, 95 to another date. Well, the problem was, she picked the 5 acres was the only access to the 100 acres. So now, if you wants to buy the 95 acres, they either gotta go through her lot or over the mountain, or, it should have been looked at a little beforehand. And the planning board has the right to do that. And we didn't in that particular case, because the cost, if you actually want an engineer to tell you that the road to go in, her case, the road was flat. Sometimes, outside of a mountain around here. To know if we can actually put more lots up there, you have to get topo done and somebody engineered it.
Question. For a fairly large subdivision, is there a requirement for 2 accesses?
Ideally, you want 2 accesses. And in fact, a lot of towns, we haven't been so good on it. A lot of towns, the loophole, will make you actually go through adjoining properties to get, throwing them together, if they know that's gonna be developed. If they know you got 100 acres here that they cut into 20 lots. And if one road goes in,
What's
there's
the
another
number of
100 acres
lots?
here.
Is there a minimum number of lots to which that applies?
No, but it's just that, for safety reasons, for fire or, you know,
Yeah,
if that one.
but if it was like 5 lots, would we be able to say you have to have 2 access roads?
Well,
That
no,
seems a
I
little
don't-
small.
I
Yeah,
don't
we
think,
have to be bigger than that probably.
I don't know if we really have anything in the code with that. I know other towns.
Well, that's why I'm
I've
asking the
seen
question.
other towns that require certain capacity and then do require that.
And that's why, because I said a lot of towns, if there's more land, like these big, apple orchards that are getting developed, someone cuts out big hump and subdivides it. But you know, there's another 200 acres that's gonna get subdivided, so the town has the right to say, well, maybe the road should go all the way around and leave this other road. We can't put the road in now, but when the other piece comes up for development, they know they gotta start that road there and continue it out to whatever highway it is. Which is kind of tied into what we're gonna run into with,
Well, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me that question.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it depends on Ulster's law, doesn't it? Or does it depend on us?
and then further review, the code says, you know, if it's a subdivision, that you can do the rest of the lot. Our question would be out there at Zenith, it's all the same developer, but it's 2 different lots, but it's the same developer. And so it's gonna be a question, do we have the right to look at the rest?
It's more than 2 lots because they've got all that road they want to build is its own, I
Right.
think, 2 different lots.
That is.
There's 3 or 4 parcels for the whole thing,
Well,
not counting what's in Ulster.
they're coming in to make the road all on its own lot. That's the first,
Well, that's that little,
yes,
That
but that's the plan, is to put it, all the road on one lot.
Right.
But
but if they're talking about 40
Yeah.
or 60 or 100 units, depending on what Ulster allows, and I don't know.
Right.
And nobody in Ulster is willing to let them have a road access, then they've only got one way in and out.
Yeah, we'll cross that, when we get to it, but, that's the idea, that the planning board should look at the whole picture as best as we can. When we're looking at any kind of subdivision or any kind of development like that. Of course, the applicants are not very happy about that, because they don't want to bother with the rest of it. And like I said, then it comes up later to find out whether they feel we could access, and now they don't have a way to really access the rest of it. So that's my little spiel on,
Right.
let's get to the next stage.
So thank you, Peter, as always. We have a whole nother pile that we're going to dig into after. We the what, why, and how section review. Peter said was really pertained towards subdivision, site plan review. But we're talking about both. There's requirements, definitely some more. I'm gonna make this as painless as possible.
To be clear what you just said, Melissa, there are site plans that are not subdivisions.
Yes,
They're just
site plan.
something on one piece of land.
Yes, they're 2
A
totally separate
subdivision
things.
is
Like
another,
restaurants,
kind of thing.
like old D.
Yes.
right.
A
So
site
subdivision, you're
that is
actually-
a multi-residence and then has something else going on, like we see site plans, but we also see plats for subdivision.
That's what I wanted to make clear.
So this was done by, New York Planning Federation. What, why, and how site plan review. 2 lovely planners. What is a site plan? What is a site plan review? Why perform site plan review? Differences between who, how, the who, what, why. You guys know a lot. We've had people come in with an idea on a cocktail napkin. And sometimes we can go with that and we make a little more, but we don't want to break the bank for anybody either, so we have to be understanding. And sometimes people get here and we don't know why. So a site plan is a rendering, drawing, or sketch prepared to specifications and containing necessary elements set forth in the applicable zoning ordinance or local law which show the arrangement, layout, and design of proposed use of land on site. I have people who come in all the time and say, here's the garage I want, and there's the construction garage plans. But we need a site plan. It came to us because there's an issue that it needs either a special use permit or a site plan review. It prompted something within the code. So we don't really care about the garage. The garage could be legal.
The building
We need to see
department
the
takes
whole
care of
thing.
that part of it.
Yes, so we need to, I need to see your whole site. To the best of your capability. The regulatory technique requiring municipal approval of the layout and design of development authorized by statute, town law, village law, and city law, involves the exercise of discretion by the municipal to approve applicants on a case-by-case basis. Why perform such? Facilitate compliance with municipal land use zoning requirements and conform to municipalities' land use objectives. We do this to the best of our ability. To avoid and mitigate impact on adjoining parcels, infrastructure, and surrounding neighborhoods. This is your public hearing. This is every time it doesn't affect the neighbors.
And your traffic
Are
study.
we waiving? What other information do we need? Yes. To ensure that new development fits on the site and incorporates good site design. So we've talked about this as community character. To protect views, important resources, and significant site features. That's all the environmental aspects that we do. Purpose of the site plan approval is not to address whether the use itself is allowed in the zoning district. That would have already been determined by the zoning district regulations. Does it fit on the site? So site plan versus zoning. Site plan review is not a substitute for zoning. Site plan review may be part of a zoning ordinance or local law. Municipalities may also enact site plan approval as a separate ordinance or local law. Site plan review can be required even if there is no zoning.
Really?
Site plan, case-by-case review of a project's potential impacts on a particular site. Zoning, predetermined local laws or regulations that govern how property can and cannot be used in certain geographic areas. This right here is why I sit here and say mitigate, mitigate, mitigate. Site plan versus special use permit. Site plan review need not to be part of zoning law, nor is zoning required. Looks at layout and design of parcel. Public hearing is not required by state law. Goal is good design compatibility with the site. Special use permit. Use may be allowed under certain requirements. Part of zoning looks at compatibility with neighboring uses. Public hearing is required. May require site plan approval. Goal is harmony with adjacent uses. Goal is harmony with adjacent uses.
Talk about subjective criteria.
Site plans versus subdivisions. Subdivision regulations are used when a parcel of land is being divided into two or more parcels. Site plan review involves a use on a single existing parcel of land. Now, subdivision is also a lot line revision. Subdivision that you guys can see, and I think we're going to start seeing, is sometimes when there was a prior subdivision and they're going to conjoin them and put them back together, which lots of things happen under subdivision, is the point. Subdivision regulations are concerned with the way in which newly created lots, roads, infrastructures are laid out. Site plan review versus building permit. Site plan review applies to selected uses. Site plan review is a discretionary review process. Issuance of building permits is ministerial. In nature, the applicant either meets the requirements or does not. When a project requires site plan approval, building permits cannot be issued until the site plan has been approved.
What does ministerial mean? I think I know, but I would like it explained.
Isn't it really just yes or no?
Okay. So what they mean by that is that the building department has the authority to say it fits or it doesn't fit, and
Yep.
that's what a
Okay, but
ministerial
hang on, I
decision
wanna
is.
be-
That's-
Relating to a government minister, so I think relating to our CEO. So probably just in a,
Okay,
yeah,
that's lawyer talk anyway. But
Yeah,
it's nice to
yeah.
have a better sense of what it is. Do you have a better sense of what it is?
so this whole, just so you guys know a little bit more outside the process. You guys approve it at that time, the plans, but then the applicant has to take care of final development fees, requirements that are within the resolution, and that's kind of all done with you. So they had the approval here, but we still need the final plans. Peter needs to sign off on them. So a lot of times you hear me say, we're done here, but there's paper. So there's lots of closing up, and sometimes that requires, like checking Butch to make sure, or, like us all kind of working together that like, here's the final plan, this is what was approved, making sure it has filled all the conditions. Sometimes we ask that a bulk and reg table, but there's always within that resolution, it matches what the final plan is going to be.
Now, suppose they don't do it the way it was approved.
I won't let it go.
Suppose they bill
Oh,
and
then,
they don't follow the
See
rules.
then
No
they
permit.
then it goes to the CEO as a complaint, and then they'll be in violation, and they'd have to stop. I mean, I've heard, I don't know about our town, but I'm sure that they would if they were in that situation where you have to tear down something.
You don't close that, you don't close out the building permit.
Yeah, right, that's the.
And then if they
enforcement.
go to sell and do
Because they do
municipal church,
inspect and they make sure that
It has
meets the-
happened.
it
yeah.
does come full circle, because if they do a municipal search and wanna sell their house, they're screwed.
Like the right yes.
Thank you.
As John Lavelle just said, yeah.
That's another good reason why I say you have to have the license through there, sign the thing.
Yep.
Because if somebody signs a site plan and puts a house here and they're too close to the property line or over the property line, they will have to.
And things happen. We saw, the one that we had as a subdivision in wetlands and water course, that case, we went through with the lawyers and everything. There was a subdivision approved without an access, and it happens. And then we have to go back and rectify it, but to the best of our ability, and try all opportunities, because we have the wetlands and water course, to avoid that. So we did that, but we've seen it, and it's gonna happen.
When was that subdivision created?
Which one?
The one that didn't have access without going through the
Or
wetlands?
something. I wanna say that,
That was,
Well, it's
well, no,
actually,
she first came to us. For the,
Prior?
yeah, for the first part of it.
but
yeah,
I get,
I mean, it does.
yeah, but
That's
let me
right.
ask the question a slightly different way. If the law changes after a subdivision, like they built this they approved this subdivision, assuming at the time, I'm not saying this was true, but let's assume that at the time, they were not required to have an access road. It would be crazy, but okay, let's say
Yeah.
assume that they
Yeah.
had.
Well, I'm sure
And
there
then the
are laws
law
out there
changed
that
saying
don't
they had to have an access road. And then they want to build on it, and we ended up having to let them do that.
Well,
And maybe it wasn't a mistake or an unsigned thing, it was simply that the law wasn't there.
Well, then you got,
Is it grandfather?
pre-existing non-conforming.
Non-conforming,
Yes.
but,
So then it's the CEO's call on whether or not they can build on it,
Right.
and how pre-existing and non-conforming
Okay.
it is, and whether or not was it already made legal, or is it this point? And a lot of times that has to do with what's been done within a year.
Are we recording this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they have to get.
Well, I have a question that I don't know if I want to ask on.
They have to get a curb cut to access that
Right.
lot in the building department.
Right.
And if it's a place you can't get a curb cut, then
SOL.
Right, and even if we know that it's not gonna be done right away, they have to, either the highway department or building, like, I need an okay, like, to go through the habit, like, you don't necessarily need the curb cut right now, because whoever buys the land will need it, but I need a note saying, okay, it looks good, it's gonna work, and,
we had a case before us up on the mountain where a subdivision was done on paper and there was a lot in the back overlooking beautiful view from top of the mountain, beautiful view of this lot. And the access was in front of the dog leg coming off the main road. And when we got there, it was a steep cliff. And there's no way you were gonna blow the mountain down to get a road in there. And it was an inaccessible lot. And free zoning. And it was a difficult thing. Luckily, two of the neighbors agreed to buy half of the lot, join it.
Oh, so it just didn't go into that use.
Right,
It became somebody else's property.
but
That's
it
a nice
could
outcome.
have got messy because, according to the map, they had a right to go ahead.
yeah, I mean, we see things here for all different reasons. Who conducts the site plan review? The governing board may retain the authority to review or may delegate this authority to. So, planning board, the ZBA, another administrative board authorized by the governing body, and governing body, town, village, city, board of trustees. Pretty much exactly. Pages of site plan reviews. I'm not even. Yeah. You guys know.
Pre-submission, which would be.
I call
it would be
the
nice to
first
have.
meeting that when anyone comes to us as a sketch plan review. This is how I learned it, how I came in. It's a sketch plan review. They're coming in to tell you what they're doing. Is the application, the written application is usually 100% because I've already vetted that. Sometimes it's not worked out on the plan with wetlands delineation. They have no idea that they have to get that plan. I kind of leave that in your hands because you're the planning board and we, as a group, to tell them this is what we need to see, because it's a site plan review. Come in, sketch plan review, come in and tell us what you want to do, so we can move you in the right direction.
A perfect example of that is the gas station on 28. But they come to us with a paper napkin and said, we want to do this, we would say, well, no, you ain't gonna, well, no, they came to us with a full set of plans, all engineered, all drawn up. And now we look back at
And
that.
revised several times, and we're still not happy with it.
That they had come to the original sketch plan review, we could have saved them all that. time.
So I always tell people that you're looking at a minimum of 2 meetings, and it could be a couple more. And it all depends on how things go, what's required, what's needed.
And there might be a pretty good space of time between the sketch and when they
And
actually bring us something,
and
because
I
they got
tell
stuff to do.
people, your meetings will never be back to back, because I get that all the time. There's no way. But, yeah, so,
Well, unless they've done this before talking to us, which is not a good idea.
right. But it's a handful of people that we have that come in that we wait with. And we do that with good intent, because everything's there, it's within code, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
we've crossed all the Ts and dotted all the Is, and there's no question. But that's very rare, and I don't say that out there for. But, yeah, a lot of you guys see my red line applications, like I go through them all, so you can look at them and know like exactly what's happening and what's going on. Minor projects, simpler application materials, more streamlined review process. They give it a timeline, 31 to 60 days. I say all applications are different. Less detailed findings required, major projects. They should have given a timeline for this, could go on for years. Waivers versus variances, you guys know this. Waiver, you know, we waive the public hearing. They give examples of landscaping plan, lighting plan. We kind of, you know, is it minor in scope? I tend to use that a lot of times. You know, is this affecting, what is this affecting and why are they here? Variance is low VDA setbacks. Sometimes we will have a subdivision that doesn't fit within and we have to send it to the ZBA. Most needs for ZBA come from our ZBA. Very few that we do. And then it gets legal and being a lawyer kind of help anyway with what is the site plan review and area variances. And the CEO, building department should act as the gatekeeper. I use this line a lot. Our applications go to the building department with their building permit application. And he goes through and vets, and literally that prompts me so I know what I'm looking for and what we're going for and what you guys are looking for and what it needs. Except timber harvests and subdivisions. They're the only 2 things that are just solely us.
Oh, that's interesting. I guess I haven't noticed that. Okay.
Yep. I do ask this help with a few things because sometimes our heads together is better than one separate. Local jurisdiction, site plan, special use variance, subdivision.
Wetlands.
Yeah, wetlands. Yeah, most towns don't have that. Is the application lacking major information? You'd be amazed at what we see. Would a pre-application meeting be beneficial to the process? I always try to get as much information as possible, but sometimes my hands are tied and it's easier just to bring the person in and have them talk to you and see where we're going. Because you guys are the determining factor, I just execute, produce, but it's what you agree on, you are the seven brains to put in. So this is what Peter and I always say to you too, if the application came to us, the CEO has determined the use is allowed. It abides by the code, it just prompted something for more review that the planning board. So boards do the plan.
And it could be that the code says, subject to special use permit.
And there's a whole
That's
chart for
the reason.
that, yes, so there's a whole chart for that, it's
Right,
really
in the
like
zoning code.
261, and then you go in and it's whatever zone you're in, and
Right.
the hotel that's coming to us, right next to, across the street from the old gas station, so it is. They only are coming here because they need a special use permit for the hotel. I mean, it will be more, it will be like, but
There'll be
That's-
variances.
no, they're going with straight because of the denial.
They
They'll
lowered
be
the
here
height,
next meeting.
height,
They'll
but
be
they
here
don't
next
need the
meeting.
park office.
Yeah, they'll be here next meeting.
What about the number of units? Excuse me?
I think they're really good next meeting.
Well, so
I think the cutback, John.
17.
17 units in there,
They'll be expensive.
2 cars per unit, that's 34 cars.
They only
Well,
got
for a hotel, why is it
four
for two
spaces.
cars? But then,
What do they need?
For a
They're
We'll
hotel,
have a
it's
good
not-
review.
the Hotel's not likely to be too.
yeah, I would think it's 2 cars per room. Why would it be 2 cars per room? Plus, they can rent
Don't they
municipal parking.
normally figure 2 cars per room?
Well, for
In a
housing,
hotel, I mean, in
for
an apartment.
bedrooms, in housing, we do,
I don't think the whole, yeah.
but not for, doesn't make sense for.
Kind of
hotel.
rare.
Okay, we'll get
That's what
there.
we did with Rocco.
You know, if you have a one-bedroom apartment and you have 2 adults living in it, they both work, you might very well have 2 cars, even though it's only one bedroom.
While we're talking about this, the next 2 meetings, we have the 2 big ones coming. So we have them, which is Berserker is the next meeting, and then we
Which
have.
one?
It's the hotel in town,
What's it called?
Berserkers.
You gotta be kidding.
That's their
That's
LLC.
the name of the people who
That's
own
their
Sylvia's
LLC.
and Good
Well,
Night.
it's next to the ugly mud club. so-
Yeah.
That's what they call
The
it.
old gas station, anyway. I
That's
want
the-
you guys to
that's
think
the
about
gas station?
consultants, the old gas station, right? I want you guys
But
to
it
be
is the
thinking of
same people.
consultants that we need to use, and for unit development, which is coming in the following meeting, it looks like we're going with, well, obviously John Lyons, but he kind of recommended me for this one. as the planner.
Do it.
So I just want, thank you. I want you guys to think though for the town hotel, if you want to go with Matt or if you want to move Dan in, so just think about that because that's a decision I need from you. Okay.
It would-
keep moving.
Okay, we're talking about.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Good. Determining if the application is complete. Yours truly does that. I work with the applicants a lot, so they come in and hug me and various things because it's overwhelming.
But if you miss something, it comes down
You
to
guys
us.
get it, and we get it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, sometimes it's the math that you get. Like, we work together. We don't have any. All right, here's some site plan involves the review of any number of specified elements related to the development of parcel. They must be set forth in the local law ordinance, those defined by statute, state statute. Parking, means of access, screening, signs, architectural features, location and dimensions of buildings, adjacent land uses and right to protect them. Any additional elements specified by the governing body of the ordinance.
Could you go back to that?
Yeah.
I want to see that thing again. Any additional, no, adjacent land uses and physical features meant to protect them.
There you go.
And I'm thinking Zena,
I know.
okay.
We're gonna get a little bit more into this at the end. I'm gonna read through.
Why do we care about architectural features?
Well, we care about what it's gonna look like.
We do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Remember, we want community character and we want it to fit in.
So how come
We
we,
don't want a
CCD?
white roof.
how come we let Dixon hamburger stand go? It's hideous.
Or the woods, the
Wasn't here.
Little House on the Prairie project. The motel. Oh my, come on.
Alamo. Oh,
They're pretty
well,
simple, no?
different issue.
Well, they're like Disneyland versions of, there's one that's called Little House on the Prairie.
Oh, I know,
One
I
that's a
know.
fake Dutch colonial
It's their
stone.
Zots. It's their Zots, but it's not hideous. It's definitely a Zots, I get it.
Yeah, we
I
have to
should
be
have word,
reasonable.
the word
We
these
can't
days is
be-
faux.
We can't be
With an X.
completely and totally snooty.
Okay,
That was great,
fire me.
Who sets the standard on defining idiots?
Well, that's the
CCD.
problem.
I think Dixon
That's
looks
always
great.
gonna be the
I think it's
You and I'd go to
CCD.
the mat on that.
Right. And then we run into the
Well,
battle
there's
of
two
like
things we
planning
can
board
do.
is jurisdiction, you know, like, and
I
then
have,
CCD
actually, I
is
have a question
advisor.
about it. I have a question about it. If it's not in the center of town, do we have a right to ask Civic Design for an opinion, even though it's not technically?
You have the right to ask Civic Design for anything you want. You are the decision makers. If you feel that that application requires CCD review, any application that comes through us, you can decide.
Any place in town?
We're the board, they're not.
Yes,
Oh, I know that. We don't have to take their
100%.
view of it. I get that.
Typically,
They work for us.
Got it. They
you
don't know
guys
that.
handle most of it, you know,
They don't
and
know
it's,
that.
but,
It's true.
well, we try to remind them.
What's his name that doesn't know that?
Stop it, stop it, stop it, we're recording, stop it. Braden.
Moving on.
Application review to be required. So this is kind of what Peter was saying, North Arrow scale B. They're not on every one, there's things, but for the most part, we like to see.
I'm
them.
not always good about doing a north arrow on my maps.
Boundaries of the property plotted to scale, existing water courses, existing buildings, proposed buildings, location, design, type of construction proposed, the use or uses, grading. Sometimes with this, I ask them for narrative, and then I staple it right to the plan and it's signed off on here. Because then there's no question of what was approved. Grading and drainage plan, that's, we have SWIP going on. Engineering, location design, type of construction on all parking and truck loading areas showing access and egress. Type and volume of traffic expected to be generated. We love Stephen Mafia, I'm so glad I found him.
Very thorough,
Sidebar.
very thorough.
Provisions for pedestrian access, sidewalks, bike paths, location of outdoor storage, if any. What you don't think about, site and infrastructure improvements, water and sewer, fire EMS. We do this a lot. We ask the fire department if the access is acceptable. Can they get there?
Yeah, given
No,
our
we
kind
wanna
of
know.
landscape.
Signage, we look at that, landscaping and buffers, plantings. What are they giving back if they're taking away? Lighting, estimated construction schedule, that's not always us, but sometimes they want to look at it in places. Other permits required, EAF, we use that, I mean, that's kind of a gatekeeper of what we need to look at too. Other elements entitled to the proposed development as may be considered necessary in a particular case. Here's just some examples. Use your resources. So I've had lunch with people outside and they kind of joke that I play the legal and the engineer, and then sometimes I do, and I own that. But this is really like the escrow. We do the engineer, we do the legal for escrow, and we do a plan for escrow. Do we need them in every case? Absolutely not. But they're very helpful, and we have a really great team right now, but this planning department, ancillary review boards, here's your CCD,
Yeah.
here's your tree committee, here's your WEC. We have worked really well with them in the past. Now we don't really have a WEC, but we've done beautifully with joint site visits and.
Let me ask you a question about that. We don't have a WEC, but we've got the Woodstock Land Conservancy.
But they're not an ancillary board.
I
Did we
know,
just-
I guess that's where I'm going. They are expert and engaged. Can we ask them for opinions?
I
No.
wouldn't, I think that's a cross, because they're a paid entity, they're not volunteers.
Did we completely
They're
abolish rec?
nonprofit.
No, I just don't think they have any members,
Yeah,
to my knowledge, or chair, or, you know, a long time ago, we did the tree committee, but we ran into litigation.
But what'd you say?
We used the tree committee, we ran into a few little things with that, but
Yeah, that's what I didn't hear. Okay.
So other consultants, we brought on other consultants. We now have a
Sure.
forester who does an intro site visit for timber and then an exit, and that's all the rest of it.
And the planning consultants that we bring in are kind of that, but they're also kind of planning department, except we don't have a planning department.
Exactly, yep.
And sometimes we ask.
Do
the
not
county
forget
for things.
required recommended coordination. So your municipal department of protective services, highway department, get a whole lot with that, building department, water and sewer, legal, fire, we do all this. Unfortunately, we really don't have legal, it's all done via escrow, and it takes a lot for me to get us to have. But, anyway, planning referral, this is if we have to send it to the county, if it falls within the specs for that matrix. Involve state and federal agencies if necessary. We're lucky, usually we know people, engineers already working on it, and they come in and they know what they have to do if they're in an area that needs CHIPO,
Or that,
historical preservation, or Army Corps, they've already
DEC.
started that, DEC, sometimes we have to prompt, but usually one of us catch it, and it's good. Conduct meetings, all board members should use a review checklist. Do not rely on the chair or others. Each board member is responsible for coming to their own conclusions. Each board member should understand the issue and be able to explain their decision. Every once in a while.
I love that chair with the light bulb
I know,
over it.
it's
Is
great,
that
isn't
is that for giving somebody the third degree?
You're on trial. Yeah. Every once in a while, we have had to pull the board. And, if we're in a deadlock, and figure out how to move forward. So there's no, we need to support these. I love this one too. Be respectful, which, sometimes it's hard, but we try.
Sometimes it's
Avoid arguments because you can't win when someone is just adamant. Take the time to identify issues and problems, set the tone of what is acceptable and not acceptable. I try. Be aware of working rules, procedures, and ethics. This is a 101 of the class that I gave when we were over at the town hall. I think we do great, but some other things do. All around in every town, not just here.
At the county level,
Oh,
we
yeah.
have a reputation though for being very hard ass.
We do?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I skimmed the cases in the Bluestone Review. That's interesting.
So
Not just
application
a
public
board.
hearings, not required in Canadian legislation, can be made a requirement in local regulations. This is legal, but there's all these little loopholes with the complete application. So technically, we're supposed to have a public hearing within 62 days, which you've heard us kind of mention about a few cases why we don't jump to a public hearing. Because it
Starts
puts-
the clock.
It starts a ticking time clock.
Mhm.
And we've dealt with this a lot with the cell towers, but they are all under the federal FCC. And I love y'all, but it doesn't really matter what we say about cell phones. They come here, it's a time thing, like that, I get that application, I don't even have time to look at it, they gotta come.
But let me
Because it's
ask you a
within the
question
time.
about this.
Yes, of course.
62 days from the day the application is received or complete,
Okay,
which?
they go with this, but it's complete, because you have to acknowledge that it's complete.
Okay.
That's why
That's why it can take years, because
that's
they
why
never get it
our
to the point.
lingo is, we open the public hearing, we close the public hearing, we mark the application as complete, then you, at the end of the meeting, you vote in the resolution. Just chronologically.
Yeah, but this is for the date for the public hearing. It says, public hearing
Yeah.
within 62 days of the day
Yeah.
the application is received.
And
And I'm
then-
asking, that's when we consider it to be a complete application, and we've been arm wrestling with them about what they need.
Yes. So
It's
the
not complete.
decision must be rendered within 62 days. So
That's right.
sometimes you won't, there's been years that you guys have not had the resolution. I know it's a long time ago, but at the night of the public hearing. I just do that for efficiency and I think it's important. But a lot of times you had the next meeting and then you get the draft. Because the terms have come up or whatever.
Or something comes up in the hearing,
Right.
and we
it's
feel
over
like
the next
that's a
time.
legitimate concern, and we need to go back into it again.
100%. But you do technically have 62 days. I avoid this like the plague. When we're in it, and yeah, it's just my efficiency and my OCD.
So if we,
Times may be extended through mutual agreement with applicant, should have rules for public. records.
okay, so let me ask the question.
Yes,
If something comes up in the public hearing, we've got the resolution drafted, something comes
We
up
leave
and
it
we
open.
say, oh boy, we leave it open.
Yeah.
Okay,
because then that
That's what I thought.
62 days doesn't start. At the
That's what I thought.
discretion of the chair, we leave the public hearing open, and then, yeah, there's another thing, but yes. Okay. Seeker requires the lead agency to make a determination of significance. Pause, neg deck, within 20 days after, this is a whole process in itself, and like, draft EIS. The applicant has to do, we do a lot of work for the applicant. Very rarely have I seen positive, but we usually make it.
off deck means there is
There's several environmental factors.
neg deck means no problem,
Well, under 3.
under 3.
That's why I rarely have seen positive. They can have up to 3.
Can you explain that more?
Yeah, that's very confusing.
So that EAF form that comes with every application we have hits all the environments through DEC. They basically pick their location. It will alert us if it's a CEA for an environmental area, if there's wetlands, if there's endangered species. And it goes through all other things. What sort of permitting is needed, prompts lots of things. But then a whole process with seeker starts. Every application that we do, we apply seeker, and it's all environmental. I've had the DEC call me and say, I'm working with this person, and I just want to make sure that, have you heard from them at all? A lot of that is the good rapport that I've built. I don't know if that would have happened otherwise, but sometimes people don't fill out building permits and don't know that they need a reference and try to not. And I'm not even saying like it's not avoidance, people just don't know.
Yeah.
The EAF form is like foreign language to a lot of people because it's questions that you never thought you'd ever have to answer. But we get that beautiful report, I go through, I look at it, a lot of what's on there is reflected within the resolution. The seeker process is you guys determining, technically the applicant's supposed to come to us, usually it's always type 2. I've rarely seen type 1 or unlisted. There is long logs of, and I literally have a binder, and I flip through
But
and pick
again,
it.
all the years I've been on this board, I still can't keep type 2, type 1.
Oh, no, it's a
straight
lot.
in my head.
And then, if we're gonna be lead agency, and it's a larger project, there's a whole kit and caboodle that goes along that I do, that other agencies are notified, and they can contest. I've never had that happen, but then it goes to DEC, DP, whatever, and it's a whole thing. But we handle, every case has that initial report and then an exit report that Peter and I both sign off on, that seekers bid handle. And it's listed within every single resolution for every single case. Usually it's a type 2. Sometimes it's an unlisted.
Which
with a
means
neg.
what? Type 2.
No environmental,
Okay.
no environmental issues. There's beautiful wording. I just think. But there's always going to be something. You guys work a lot with, okay, you're going to take down 10 trees to build your house. Where are you putting back the 10 trees? And they come in and they know when they do that.
Don't necessarily have to do.
And what John said is 100%
Right,
correct.
only up in the.
It's their,
city
as,
government.
right. Yes.
Now, listed that also has to do with the size of the building that goes on.
And a lot of different things. Yeah, unlisted is, yeah, when you guys pop in my office, I'm show you.
I just wish
I
they
have
would,
binders.
I
of
wish they would
secret.
use language here that's more intuitively obvious what the hell it means,
Most of
starting
all
with
of
that.
what we see is type 2. It could be, yes. Yeah, and does that help at all?
Type 1 is big issue, type 2 is no big issue.
Type 1 is groundwater, manufacturing, Yeah, stuff
Oh,
like
it's a
that.
matter of the use rather than what the site is for?
It's getting hairy, but
Okay.
it's different.
All right, it
It-
depends.
it's
It
more-
depends.
It gets more and more complicated. One is
I
not listed, it's
literally-
really complicated.
I
When
should get you a mug. I had a colleague who taught computer science and he had a mug that said, it depends.
It totally depends. I literally, when I go to do that draft resolution for you guys, I literally pull out the book and I'm like, okay, where am I gonna word it and where are we gonna fit it? Bigger cases, you guys have more, and we went through and we read the whole full EAF, you know, and just to go through.
And
that's
they
just
got
to
a lot
make
of
it
things
comfortable.
wrong, which worried me.
They did, but that's what happened with any of
I know, but we don't always go all the way through it as a
No.
group, but you go all the way through it.
it. All right, so this is, you know, their kind of deadline and how they do it. And I've really seen every town kind of handles their secret, how they handle it, and they try to fire. Secret and public hearings.
Prior to the leaving an application complete,
Yeah,
boy,
which no one really may.
nobody ever does that, do
Yes,
they?
exactly. Bigger towns I've seen do it, but not us. I think, here. Defer to your attorney and other professional resources. Other towns also have an attorney that sits at the meeting every time. If an EAS is required, that's an environmental,
Impact.
impact statement. The applicant prepares this. Or, we did not need to do one for Fan Acres, but Alec and I actually wanted to, and we worked together to create them. We just thought it was a good idea. It was the biggest subdivision that this town had seen, and I felt like for the file,
Yeah.
so we did. But other than that, I've never.
Were you guys all on the board when that came through? I'm not sure. if-
I wasn't.
You weren't?
I was at the end.
With
Yeah.
Sam,
Yeah.
It was a really, I mean, they did it right. They got the right advice. They did it right. When they first brought it to us, we said, I don't know, and they fixed it. It's really a beautiful project.
It really is.
But the first draft of it wasn't so beautiful.
Is the proposal consistent with the ordinance local law? That's kind of more bush, but sometimes, you know, sometimes too. Is the proposal consistent with the objectives of comprehensive plan? We've talked about this. Will the project require extensive mitigation? Ha, my favorite word.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Defining extensive.
Yes.
How much escrow you want me to ask for? That's the question. Is the proposal a good design?
we just back
And
up
that's
to the-
subjective.
Lots of subjective criteria going on around here.
to the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
The smoke is barely cleared over the last couple, but you know, they're supposed to review it like every 10 years. We're almost due to go over the
And
comprehensive.
just so everybody knows, the one we have, the previous one was 50 years before.
I don't, yeah.
Well, we're really ready, time to actually go back. to review the comprehensive.
You know, we could do that.
Do
I have
we
another
do-
idea.
who
We
does
could do
that?
it as a workshop. Well,
Do
we
we
would
do
do
it?
it like, just like this.
So that'd be fun.
We
Yeah,
could,
should
I
do
mean,
that.
We could
When
do
it was
that.
revised, they had a task force. That was one of Bill's early executive decisions to do. And
Yeah, every once in a while, I work into, like, if it comes up, like, I'll work into a resolution, like, and with alignment of the comprehensive plan, we encourage blah, 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 blah. I have, over the years, I have put that in there. It's good. We could totally do that, definitely. Good idea. Oh. I actually found a really great, I found two really great ones that I want to do too. One has court cases and.
You mean workshop, you mean
Two
workshops?
applications, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be really great for us, because we're in that. every
It would be
day.
really useful
And
to
then roll.
understand the legal issues that allowed the Dunkin' Donuts.
And then
What they did
roles.
wrong and why they lost the case. It would really be useful for us to understand that.
Because they didn't hire a traffic consultant.
Filed a suit and lost the case.
Yeah,
That's what happened.
Yeah,
the applicant sued and Burley lost the case.
Oh, I didn't know.
they didn't hire a traffic consultant.
They told me they admitted that.
No, they didn't.
They said that was their mistake.
They have lots of issues going on over there. Did they open it already?
Excuse me.
They opened it
Yes, it's over.
finally?
Yeah,
Yeah.
finally, after giving away coffee for a week.
And
and
there's
shut it
been-
down
and there's
again.
already
And
been a
it's
letter,
another issue.
And
there's
then a
already
war-
been a
right.
letter to the
What a-
planning board
what a
about the
shock
fact that they
was
didn't
after the
require
history of that place.
dark sky compliant lighting.
Chief
There are a
Judy was
lot of-
right when we did that.
We know it held them up, because they couldn't get Board of Health because of water fluid, because of the gas station across the street.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard about that, but I didn't know whether it was true. So where are they getting their water from?
There.
When I worked for
filtering it.
Icor Realty 20 years ago, the water was polluted at that site.
Yeah.
So what changed? Nothing.
Who would go there, even if they're filtering your water?
People like it, it's weird.
Really?
If you like coffee with a thin film of oil on top.
It smells faintly of gasoline.
Starbucks. Yeah. Why couldn't it
It's a
have been a
new
Starbucks?
flavor.
Did they reply to your letter?
Neither of them, in
What?
any case, neither of them. We wrote another Town of Hurley letter too.
What was the other one about? The same
Town
issue?
board and Nelson down and Plant.
Yeah.
1105 to 28. Yeah, we're just saying that we were reviewing it and it was a case, just kind of.
What did Mel's comment have to do with it?
He's went, he really thinks it's early, so he's went presented to Town of Hurley.
Does he know now that it's here? Because he was at a meeting this week.
I know, because I've encouraged him to come and see how it.
He's very thorough, so it's surprising that he made that
100%.
mistake.
Yep, so we just responded. Your site plan should be very clear with respect to the site plan law. We have a pretty good site plan law. Online. I'm looking into that with some of the
It
stuff
would
that
be-
we have.
Useful for down the road if somebody, and I don't think I'm volunteering to do this, looked at the proposed new zoning to see that it's fixed the issues that are in the existing zone.
I
Because
don't
at some
disagree.
point, I am going to push for it.
Well, remember, I had quite a few little things.
I know you did, and it was made better by that. The question is there anything that's still
No, I
could be
agree.
better?
And you know what? I believe it's really tactful. Which would be the person to ask? Your
Well, here's
CEO.
here is my thought. I am going to talk to Bill about asking him to move forward with 4 things. Conservation subdivision, net buildable acreage, steep slopes,
So do a piece of it? kind of
yeah, steep slopes, and the clarification of the rules for this board, which at the moment, a lot of things are not in the zone. Just those 4 things now, or as soon as I can get him to do it. Then, after the election, depending on who wins, we might look at the other things and maybe take them in segments. Maybe the things that are affordable housing things that are reasonably uncontroversial first. Because the things that have to do with large complexes and floating residential districts, those are the ones that are the hardest to do. Trying to do it all at once, I think, is a losing proposition. But if we did those 4 things during the current administration this year, preferably before summer, but I don't know, anyway, whenever, it would smoke out certain people about whether they really care about the environment or they don't, and it would make a big difference in protecting the environment. So I want you to know, between us, and I guess it's going to be on for whoever happens to look at this. We don't have anybody there except us, right? So if anybody looks at the video, they will see that I'm going to talk to Bill about this. And I have talked to Deborah Dewan and I have talked to Kirk, and we're all in agreement that that's a reasonable thing to do. See if we can get the low-hanging fruit.
So these are just things that we talked about, I'm gonna try to speed this up. Traffic, parking, circulation, and loading, layout and design, structures. The board has the authority to impose reasonable conditions and restrictions as are directly related to and incidental to the proposed site. The reviewing body must keep a detailed record of its deliberations, create findings based on reliable evidence in the record, create approval decisions that are specific and detailed enough for an applicant to understand what the municipality to enforce
And hold up.
and hold up. Yep. example of a site. All of our stuff is within the resolution, and to me, like, we have the agenda. Anything and everything is spoilable, so we have the agenda, then we have the plans, I can't turn it off. And there used to be a door that you could shut, and they got rid of that when they redid.
What is it, an alarm?
Yeah,
For what?
I don't know.
No local board, including the ZBA, has the power to overrule.
Yep, an authorized review body on the site plan. So what you guys make is hell, and that's why we get,
Unless they go
Modifications.
78, there's the Article 78.
You gotta go to court.
yep, exactly. All right. So.
Very good,
This was fun.
very good.
We'll just totally and completely later. I just think this is really smart.
Every step along the way. This video is focused on site plan. So what exactly is a site plan? A site plan or a plot plan, as some would call it, is a drawing proposed improvement to your property. So if you're building a garage like I am, a site plan would show what already exists on the property, like my house, my septic tank, drain field, my water well, etc. And also will show what you're proposing to build on your land, so the garage. One of the most important features of a site plan is to show the plan, what you're building and what already exists. All site plans are not created equal. Your building authority may require different things than mine does, but here are some examples of what generally is included in a site plan. Number one, your name and your address, of course.
Duh.
Number two, the legal description of your property. This is different than your address because it includes things like your township, your range, your section, your tax law, that kind of thing. Number three, the drawing must be to scale. For example, 1/4 inch on the site plan equals 1 foot in real life. Number four, direction of the door. Show where your property is for you. Number five, your property lines must be on the site plan. Number six, the location of your driveway and adjacent streets. Number seven, your existing structures and your proposed structures. Number eight, if you have a well, or even your neighbor has a well, the location of those wells and the distance from the proposed structure must be shown on the site plan. Number nine, if you have a septic tank, like I do, drain field, you need to show the location. Howard County, we also have to show the location of the drain field replacement, just in case ours ever fails. The ground slope and the direction of the slope must be shown. Number 11, proposed setbacks from property. A setback is simply the distance from the property line to what you propose to build on the property. Number 12, if you have water main on the property like streams, ponds, or springs, you must show the location relative to the proposed structure or structure. And relative elevation of the building site as well as at the lot corner of the building site. So depending on where your property scale might be 1/4 inch on the drawing equals 1 foot in real life, or 1 inch on the drawing equals 20 feet in total. Number 4, every dimension shown on your site plan must be labeled. If you need help with this, check with your local. They will provide you with a printout of your property. This will show property lines, dimensions, neighboring property instead. Number 5, some site plans show existing structures drawn with solid lines, and proposed structures or items drawn with dashed lines. Other examples, they use bolded lines to represent what's to be added. You just need to distinguish the difference between what exists and what is proposed. Number 6, existing and proposed driveways, walkways, pathways, that must all be shown. Number 7, if you have very large trees on your property, some building authorities want to see them drawn on the site plan. Generally speaking, if your tree is more than 2 feet in diameter, just draw it on the site plan, showing its diameter and its species. To see a sample site plan, go to loghouse.com/build a garage and look for site plan on the page. You can also search the page for site plan. Scroll down on your Windows computer or Command F on your Mac. Just remember that F means find. So here's one more benefit of site plan. Once your plans are approved, your building plans are approved, a site plan will serve as a layout map for your proposed addition of a garage, a new driveway, or whatever else you're creating. When you are ready for actual site preparation, referencing your site plan will take a lot of guesswork out of your project. Site preparation is the next video in this series, so check it out when you're ready for that step. One more thing, remember to subscribe to the channel and visit loghouse.com/build-a-garage if you want to follow along in the movement.
Alright, that was really basic and like definitely building from it, but I thought it was really helpful and I thought that it was good. And it was done well. Inside your packets, I'm gonna take this home. I did a lot of legwork, literally these are from all over the United States. But it's just reiterating what is a site plan, why is it important, and there were good things that I found on other towns' websites. And examples of what we left out. All right, so the next one is resolutions versus the final site plan. I kind of wanted you guys to have a discussion. I tell you that final site plan reflects what we put in within that resolution. You guys, what's a resolution versus a final site plan?
Resolution is our decision. The site plan is what we've decided about. But they're separate documents. Am I right?
You are
Yes.
absolutely right. Okay. So we're gonna have a little fun with this in a few minutes. This is what Peter was talking about. This is within our code, 213, conceptual or sketch plan, see your segmentation. Whenever any subdivision of land is proposed, or before any contract for the sale or lease of any lots of such subdivision or any part or thereof is made, or before any preparation for improvements, any non-agricultural clearing or grading, or any permit for the erection of any structure in such proposed subdivision shall be granted. The subdivider or his duly authorized agent shall submit conceptual or sketch plan of such proposed subdivision in accordance with the following procedures. A. When a partial subdivision of a larger parcel is proposed, the planning board may require a conceptual plan for the development of the remainder of the parcel where concerns of the general pattern of development, access, or road development must be addressed.
That is
Slow
the-
down, please.
That's what you were talking about earlier.
This is what Peter was talking about.
This is the issue. And this has to do with like, I don't want to be specific, so I'll try to be general about this, but you know how it goes. They're asking us to look at their widening of their roads they own in the wetlands, and that's why it's before us, it's a wetland, what it was permit application. This is segmentation. They're asking us, is it okay to get into the wetlands a little bit of this? That's not the issue.
Yeah.
The issue is that how much traffic are you gonna be putting out on the main road? That's the issue. And so therefore, we're gonna need a traffic consultant. And the segmentation part of it is this, that says it's a subdivision, any other part of the lot. What we have here is we just said they've got 4 lots, but it's one developer.
Yeah.
So they're saying, well, we just want to develop 1 lot and use this road, but they have another 500 acres to
Which
develop.
they may or may not ever do anything with, and they're not telling us.
Right, so the question I'm proposing is, we really have the right to look at how they're going to develop the other 500 acres and what road they're going to use to access it. And therefore, we need a traffic consultant.
Because I think, if I remember the map correctly, the whole 500 acres would be subject to that same entryway off of Xena Highway Road.
And so therefore, that whole entrance may have to be changed. I mean, you suggest going out across the, put the bridge across.
Well, yeah,
Bridge and go up.
I had heard that rumble somewhere and I didn't know where to come from.
But
Okay,
the issue is, they're gonna propose, their site plan to us is just gonna be, how much of it can they go into the wetland buffer? That's not our issue. But that's how,
and the RM and the road management area, road management agreement stuff, depending on what the governance is in the subdivision, which is across the town line.
Well, subdivision.
But they could be- I can see their lawyers saying, we're not dealing with that other 500 acres. We're just dealing with it. And we're going, "Yeah, but how else are you gonna get the 5 acres out of here? You gotta go with this road." And I don't know how we're gonna deal with that.
You're hitting it. It's a problem. It's always been a problem. Someone trying to mask, veil.
Well, that's what happened with Calamar Lane.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happened with Calamar Lane.
Exactly.
So would they, to calculate the traffic, would they assume, if it, what is it, an R8 district or R5 district? You'd
R5.
assume the maximum number of lots you could have and so many cars per lot?
Well, but they could do clustering, which is what the original proposal was, where they could do half-acre lots. They could do a bunch of them and then keep a whole area undeveloped, which they have to anyway. But the issue is, when they come before us, then we're gonna say, yeah, that's the wetland water course issue. Now, how are you gonna get this traffic out on the Xena Highway Road? And they're gonna say, well, that's not our problem. We're just here for the road.
Yeah.
And you guys have a lot of power in this because it's coming to us as a subdivision to realign those 3 lots to make the road on its own.
Mhm.
So we have, it's coming to us as that piece to recreate a map with that road all on one. Site plan review, because, which determined that that's what it is, it needs a site plan review and wetlands and water. So you guys have power.
I mean, we know that's what they did. We came before us once with the 500 acres. Now they said, no,
But
we're
this,
not
but
dealing
the
with that.
segmentation issue is more than what you just said.
Oh, absolutely.
It's also that they are putting off into the future what they might want to do with the 500 acres, and we need to say, you cannot do that. You need a plan that we can agree to
Yeah.
for how you're going to use the
See,
entire area that you own.
When we talk about segmentation, I'm legally in my head, I've seen court cases go both ways. For the board or for the applicant, both ways.
Well, when
So
you're talking,
I'm on the fence
but I'm
when it
asking-
comes to segmentation.
Melissa,
big time.
let me ask you what you just said about that. I understood that the court cases had to do with whether zoning, Ulster zoning controls or whether our zoning controls. But there's the other problem of its segmentation,
So,
even within our,
Right, and mine's just
area.
much more simpler, where in Article 78, it happened with other towns, just court cases.
and it's gone both ways.
And
It's gone both ways.
And it's gone both ways. So when I hear segmentation, I kind of shut up. Like you guys
Yeah, but
go for it.
that's not exactly segmentation. That's kind of whose jurisdiction it's in. To me,
Right,
and
what
maybe I'm
you're-
wrong about this,
What you're talking
segmentation
about,
is,
yes.
I want to do this little piece, and then in 5 years I
What
come
you're
back and
talking
I want to
about
do
is
that. little
separate than what I'm, yes. I mean,
with the power we have is conditions. We could say, yes, you know, you can widen the road on the condition that no other access is permitted on that road. Period.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know that
but that's actually a question that I have. It is, all of that property that they own in Woodstock is in the CEA. I believe all of it.
Yeah.
So we could, in theory, put some constraints on what they do that would protect the environmental quality of that area as much as possible while still allowing them to do something.
Right. And, you know, that has, again, back to the subject of site plan review, since it's in the critical environmental area, and part of that decision, the critical environmental area is wildlife corridor. So to begin with, before we even look at lots, roads, anything else, somebody's gonna show us the wildlife corridors.
How would the
We need to put a
animals
wildlife
moving?
corridor on this property. You'd have to get outside of,
And one of the examples is Spam Acres. They put amphibian channels under the road, under some parts of the road.
yeah,
Now, this is gonna be more like deer and bear.
yeah.
It's a
this is
different
more like-
size
this
problem.
is- Yeah, this is, you actually have to have corridors undeveloped, where,
Like maybe you have to have a
That's what that
underpass.
golf course was.
right, but we can't make, we're not technically capable of that, so we're gonna have to get specialists in that field. to look at it.
Hudsonia people?
That's what I'm hoping that we're gonna, I'm hoping
I would think Hudsonia people.
our dear John, attorney, has a Hudsonian link. And we've spoke about hopefully getting him on board with us too, so that's my hope.
I mean, it won't show up for probably years, I guess.
Oh, no, it's fine.
No, I mean, the 500.
No, but that's the question about segmentation.
Right,
If they do the road, we have to say to them, I think we have to say to them, look, in order for us to approve the road, we have to know what your plans are. You have to put it in writing. You could come back to us later and ask to adjust it, but you have to commit to some degree of planning for the future. Otherwise, it's segmentation.
we may need some legal advice.
Yeah,
Well,
that is,
I mean, that's my view of what segmentation is.
I mean, he already.
Yeah, that's exactly segmentation, that's what they're doing on purpose.
But we have to say to them, you can't do that. You have to plan what you want to do for the entire thing in the next 20, 30, 50 years.
Yeah, as your admin,
And
we're
maybe you can
starting
change
with
it later, but we
planner,
have to
legal,
approve it.
and Hudsonia.
I'm sure they got 5 lawyers. that'll
Well,
Yeah.
challenge that.
do you, am I wrong about this? I mean, this
It's
is
already
within our authority to do.
It's within our authority to
What's
request,
Ulster do?
but
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's Ulster
legally.
do?
Ulster's waiting for Woodstock.
do
It
we,
would be good to know
would
whether
it be a
Ulster
situation where
requires
we
two
would meet
accesses.
together with?
If
with them?
Ulster can pass it on to somebody else, then what?
Do they
a
require
lot
two
of times
accesses
we-
or don't they?
Excuse me?
Does Ulster require two access roads for a subdivision as big as this might
Ulster has,
conceivably be?
they
They don't require
they
anything.
don't require much of anything.
Okay,
It's
Now that-
called anything goes.
that's what I was afraid of.
What we tend to do when we abut a town is we notify them of public hearing. And that's common, this is what we do. If it's seeker, we notify them during that review. If it's a lead agency involved. 9 times out of 10, when we have a simple subdivision with another town, one of us kind of signs off, whereas the majority make a call, send an email, okay, handle it, you know,
But this is a different thing.
but this is, and yeah,
We'll-
our
we'll have
attorney said to
people in
me,
the-
you know, has asked me the same question that you just said, what's Ulster, but what I've gotten is Ulster's really put all their eggs in, well, show us you can make a road at Woodstock. So they haven't really moved forward at all, because they want us to. keep
I mean,
it
it's what we did do, for instance, in Raleigh Falls. So, that huge property he had. He came to us for lot after lot after lot, instead of saying, look, the first lot, we should have said, well, we want to see the whole thing laid out.
Yeah.
We didn't, and now he comes before us for each
every
lot.
few years,
Now, what about that one?
which is his retirement.
What about that one we just did? What was it, Church Road? Where it was a little piece of a larger piece, but we have a pretty good sense of what can be done there
Right,
because of the wetlands and the slopes and stuff.
right. But
And
we did explore it, I mean, we did
Yeah.
ask
We
them
explored it.
stuff, but, the difference there was that they had road frontage all the way along, so there was a way to get into the back.
Right,
We weren't cutting off access.
right.
And each little lot had their own entrance. It wasn't like there was a big road going through the whole thing.
So we wouldn't consider it segmentation because the practicality of it is visible from the beginning. Question mark.
Right,
I mean, if they come back to us in 2 years and say, we want to cut another little piece off that.
then we should ask for the whole section.
Okay, so the first time, maybe we can say it's all right, the second time, and in the case of seeing a
Which is why
development,
I try really hard to piggyback off of prior cases. So
Yeah.
I already do the back leg of like what's happened. I'm not gonna get them all, but my brain does work crazy in certain ways, and I know what happened.
you look
before.
at what the history is and see whether this is turning into a
do.
segmented
I do.
activity.
Yeah.
But in the case of these guys, because of the history with the golf course and the rest of it, we already don't believe them when they say we may not do anything with it.
Well, that's personal.
No, I mean, to say this is a situation where it is likely that sooner or later it's going to be a segmented process. So we need you to give up your plans as you now see them, and you could come back and ask for a change later.
Well,
But
that should
you
be the
have- as you
simplest
now do.
possible plan with like 3 lots. So we probably have to get them to maximize the buildable area.
No, they're going to have to give them an easement. Probably
they own the
doesn't
road.
stop them. The
They own
road
the
will be
road.
better.
All right, I wanted to end kind of fun, and because I am a teacher, I made tons of plans. So the game plan was that you guys can go up and grab one and tell me something about the plan that you learned tonight that you want to know.
Those big ones right there.
Go at it. First,
Can
you can
somebody grab
flip
one
through
for
and
me?
take one. Just tell me something about it. No, just something that you learned tonight. Here, you want this one?
Well, I got one right after that.
All right, I'm coming.
Who's delineated when?
It's on the actual, see, this is what, this unit two, this is the long subdivision. So we made him do this,
Right.
and the name is somewhere, and then the subdivision
Yeah, this
plan. This is
Yeah.
just our subdivision.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, good catch,
No,
yes.
machete and your- Axe handle length of property line.
Setback.
Oh.
Axe handles the land.
Length of the property line.
Yep, property line. How big is an axe handle?
Okay, I found something.
Remember we want them. All right, what do you got?
Doesn't have a north arrow on it.
Oh, this is just a tax map. This is only part of the plan.
Oh.
No, fine.
Oh,
This is the
Sony
building.
Blue Waters. This one. It should be in the right. So it wouldn't happen.
No, no.
Oh, they're going on some-
So,
this is too complicated.
yeah, I agree. So it's gonna be-
I have a little job.
Here.
Thing over there that literally can see where the wetland located. This
Doesn't have a wetland delineation.
They don't have that.
Right now.
Oh, okay.
But there's no wetland delineator on this one. There's no wetland delineator.
So like,
Yeah.
this was just,
It looks similar. That was a little different. Very similar.
So basically, well, it's
They've got,
that, I think these are the same, these are.
yeah, I
That
think
makes
you
Very
guys,
similar.
So-
Actually,
fan,
let me
this
just-
is fans.
well, let me
Maybe it's a
finish. So
different
I started
part of
I started to look
that's why I said
for
I know
not-
this.
the
map.
delineated and all that. This is the final plan.
Oh,
This is
okay.
the sketch.
See, when they
And
first
that's
came
why
in,
this
we
doesn't
changed
have,
page two.
Yeah.
this
When they,
doesn't have,
when they first came
the
in, we
delineation.
said to them, you're giving
Yeah,
somebody this
final.
whole lot.
And then this one
And
is
they
final.
came this back, and
that's the subdivision.
there's no way to get to
So
that.
that's why this doesn't
Oh,
have,
page one, page
So
two.
what they did.
Oh, I
was
get
they-
it. So they are, yeah. So then I
They
did
made
learn
this
about
And
this
see
delineation.
how everybody.
So they did this as one
Then
lot
learned about the
or
north there.
No, they're all.
they are still divided like that?
I'm not sure which stage this is at, but there's a whole lot more land. over there.
Well, this is actually.
But I think
They kind of just grab.
it's fairly late in the game because they
Oh,
took
right.
a lot. They took a lot, but this is separation. It's like, you can have this, you can do whatever you want there, except you
No,
can't
this
get
was,
there.
this is final.
Yeah.
Oh, this is.
And the point was, everything that is final has Peter's
Because you got a
signature
lot
with
of
the dates
other
in
acres.
case too. so make sure.
So how do they resolve this?
And we usually don't keep the final.
They, it's conservation. We use that conservation.
Like two different zones? It's supposed to, but we also run into where there's already undersized lots.
So you can't.
So then we want to,
Yeah.
right, so if they're making it more
It affects the tax.
conforming, and it's already started as undersized, so
But the
I
conservation area
hate
may
to
have
say
different
case by
tax
case,
rates.
but we
Yeah,
really
you have a
do
huge part of your
have to kind of look at
property
it as
that's
case by
7
case,
acres
because
and
we
all
do have certain parcels within Woodstock that are within
Exactly.
three
Oh,
zones.
yeah, goes
But
right through
when
it.
they first came to us,
And when it's in two
This
different towns,
was
you
the
have to compare with
this was the
towns.
line.
Yeah.
There's nothing that said
Yeah.
you could use all of it,
Yeah.
except that
Yeah.
it's practically impossible.
The nice thing with subdivisions is
So what was the plan? Just
there's so
to-
many checks and balances, like you have to go to Board of Health for perk test, you have to, so they're
But
doing
they ended
other
up
work
with this
besides
huge Conservation.
the
But
map
then they
that you
pay
guys are
less,
seeing.
like tax,
I
because
don't
this
know.
is all like.
Melissa, the question we're discussing here is if you got a lot in Femme that is like 3/4 conserved, does it affect your taxes?
Yeah.
That's an assessor question. I would believe so, but I think they have to
It
do more.
depends on how they registered the conservation.
Sometimes I think you can put it on a map and it doesn't matter.
No,
Yeah.
There are
depends if
certain
you-
papers.
You actually have to register it with the taxation department.
Yeah, I don't know, I talked to the assessor when I was trying to make a map of conserved areas in town, and she said there were things that were not of public record, that
Absolutely.
were on the list.
Well, we ran into that with that, when you were just talking about, with the
Yes.
two little lots of the big one, and the neighbor said she thought it was all in conservation.
Yeah.
And well, it's not on the
So
record.
there's one,
No, but she's saying it is on the record, but not in a form that I, when I'm doing the map, can access.
so
Right,
all
but even the
different,
tax department, the tax department didn't have a record of
For
it.
that one,
Yeah.
I'm just saying the
What's the
assessor
thing,
said
all
it is
different
sometimes the
cases-
case.
all different applications kind of run with different things. Different assessors did different things also. People come in and think they have a conservation on their land and they don't. It's never been registered. So I learned the Fisher Act is basically where someone has arranged with the government. They don't ever have to come to anybody for a timber permit.
Tax law,
It is a tax.
the
law.
fish law is a tax
And there's only like, I think, 2 or 3 people in Woodstock that
law.
have it.
Have it.
Yes, but I stumbled upon one of those, they're exempt from timber harvest, so they don't have to, they can do whatever they want.
Within specs, within the government.
But they don't have to come to us for that.
But they have to follow the rules
It
of
would be,
fishery.
it would be useful to know.
But
whether
another
something
thing
like 10 acres,
with the
whether they got a
conservation-
tax break for doing that.
I
would
honestly
they
don't think
should.
so.
Yeah, I don't remember that they did.
Historical society.
So if you've got a 7-acre
Just not-
parcel, you can only build on
And complete what they
1.5
put in,
acres
so
of
there's
it.
no question.
You're paying taxes on the whole 7.
That doesn't seem.
And you can't really do anything with that land except maybe go for a hike and get your feet wet. Because you're going through the-
That's why people use the land conservancy, because they register
But
that.
that's not what they did with 10 acres. They just kept it.
Right.
What? That's an odd business model. Not only are they not maximizing the use, but they're paying for all this land, but they're never building it.
Well,
Well, they were trying to follow I mean, they went in
they
and.
were trying to do a
followed-
conservation plan.
That's why I was saying originally that we have to make sure that the map is done by a licensed surveyor,
Not as far as,
because
not unless we make it, not unless the town decides to put that in the law. That's not in the proposal
no,
that man and the committee and task force put together. It would be a very good idea. But I don't, I'm fairly certain we don't have no taxes at all. It's not relevant to the zoning.
Don't worry about it.
It's relevant to tax law. But it's a good idea.
so,
I know.
It would be an incentive.
so when you look at it, when we're presented with a proposal. you
Well,
know,
look,
an
I built an
original-
affordable apartment and I'm not getting a tax break. I'm gonna have higher taxes
Yeah.
because whatever I
Thank you.
said in my building permit
You did
is
both sides,
added to
right?
my assessment.
What?
Yeah.
Both sides?
I
So
did.
when someone presents us with a proposal on a site, you know, what we've been through, the reason I'm saying it has to be by a license, or signed by a licensed surveyor, because they have to put on it all easements, all right of ways, everything has to be on that map. And if it wasn't done by a licensed surveyor and someone said, oh, here, I want to do this, and we didn't know that there's a Central Hudson right of way going right through that property, or whether some other property had an easement that went right through it, if it's not on there, we wouldn't know.
Now, let me ask you a question. Back when I first bought my house, I asked you to come out and tell me whether I could dig out part of that intermittent stream as a pond. And it wasn't on any map. So you said, fine, no problem, I don't need any kind of permit. And now it's on a map because Hudsonia
They
mapped it,
change all the time.
which means that it is now subject to wetland water course. Well, if I wanted to do something like that again, or even build my house closer to that stream, yes?
Well, ditches are not considered,
It's on their map as a wetland, as an intermittent stream, not a ditch. I think it's,
well,
I think
yeah.
it's a naturally
Like
existing.
you might have to have a delineator come out.
Then you back up, then you go back to DEC, we just went through that a couple of
Well, I
blocks.
know, and there is there's a lunch and learn from the Federation, that's what they're talking about, is the changes in the wetlands law.
Well, you are aware that
And
the
the
federal is backed off.
And the DEC.
The federal backed off.
We did one in a show can, well, we
That's
did a
why I
big
was-
subdivision in a show can, and our
But that
engineer was
affects the state,
laying out the
changes the
septic
state
system,
law.
taking the perk test for the septic system. I said, oh,
Well,
stop,
they'll tell us at
there's
the
a
meeting.
creek there, you're within 100 feet of the creek.
We'll talk after you sit through
And
that.
he said, oh geez, you stopped the whole
Compare
project.
notes.
Well, we brought the
Sometimes.
DEC up there and they said it was okay. And this was right into the Shokin Reservoir. It was like 700 feet from the Shokin Reservoir, the creek running right down. And they said, no, that's okay. So it's up to them to make that decision.
Absolutely.
DEC.
Back to sign plans and like accreditation, I went to an architect training, whatever conference. But it was really cool that they held them responsible for like the environmental, like, you
They
have to
held
bring a
who?
piece, the
Who held
architects,
who?
architects,
Well,
who are drawing the people who were talking and doing it to be conscious of what you're doing.
So the people who were giving
Holding
the
them
presentation said, architects should be aware of this.
You
stuff
should be
and
held responsible. I do love it, because it goes to like the signature and you put your name on a plan, like. Everybody has to make a living. And some people bring more money to the table than others, which we see. But there's a right way, and a wrong way, and we try to go to it.
Why did I grade it?
There it is, when a partial subdivision of a larger parcel, but we have 4 parcels or 5 parcels. But they're talking about reorganizing those layouts so that.
Thank you for using me. I know I kept you guys, but any questions, I'm always here, and if I don't have an answer, I will get it.
Well, I have one question.
I had heard a rumor that I had another town coming, so I had like certificates on the agenda, but they didn't come apparently. Thank you for the disclosure forms. We have a meeting next week. See you here in a week. Back to normal. When are
Motion
you?
to adjourn.
Yes, there we go.
Second.
I second
Second,
it.
no,
The
yes,
6th is the next meeting?
Peter, I have a
Yes.
question for you.
Yes.
Now I can't remember.
Yes, I see.